Kansas barely beat North Dakota State today. It was a close game. I watched the end of it. They were down 3 when I turned it on. They wound up going on, I think, a 7-0 run late to win, fueled by actually tying Grant Foster at a couple blocks and a couple big rebounds and the go-ahead layup, despite only having 8 points in the game. So, Joe, I'm curious, right? Kansas had a really wonky week. They beat Kentucky in a come-from-behind fashion. They beat like a D2 team a couple nights ago. And then they barely beat North Dakota State. So I'm curious here, like obviously Kansas is a good basketball team, but it looked, for me down the stretch, it looked like they are lacking potentially a go-to guy. They tried Marcus Garrett. They tried Ochai Agbaji. They tried Christian Brown. And then eventually Ty and Grant Foster stepped up. But then you have a 5-star in Bryce Thompson, who maybe has lagged a bit to start the season, especially in the most recent games, who also probably wants some touches late. So, like, what do you make of this? If you're a Kansas fan, how much are you freaking out?
It's not good.
Yeah. I mean, North Dakota State was 0-3.
You are going to probably, question me on this, but I think this year the Big 12 might be one of the best basketball conferences in America. And I'm only saying this because of the AP rankings, which I know you hate. But you got Kansas, Texas, Texas Tech, West Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, they always have a good 4 or 5 teams, but I wouldn't say that makes them the best.
Baylor.
Yeah. What about the Big Ten, though? Yeah, I mean, look at the Big Ten. Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan State. Michigan's not bad, even though they're not in the top 25. Mm-hmm. Ohio State. I mean, the Big Ten's usually just racks up these big teams in there. And Rutgers, too.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, okay, this is good. I don't like I have a peeve of like the Big 10 and Big 12 names.
Okay.
Like the Big 12 has 10 teams and like the Big 10 doesn't even has more than 10 teams, and I hate it. But like, yeah, you make a good point. But like, I mean, I'm still going to stick with it because like Baylor and Texas are in this conference.
It's true. It's good at the top.
Yeah. But look, they don't. What I'm trying to get at is they don't have an easy conference schedule.
Yeah, I mean, no one does in the Big 12.
Okay, shut up. Shut up. Let me get this point.
Okay.
No, I get that. No, shut up. What I'm trying to say is they don't have an easy schedule. And you're right. They don't have a go-to guy yet. And that is going to bite them in the ass when they get to the conference. Okay? Yeah. So they have, what is it? They have a week from Friday to get their shit together.
Yeah.
And that's going to be hard.
And it's at Texas Tech.
Yeah. But, I mean, I'm really getting at that's when they start conference games.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't care who the opponent is. It's conference. And, like, the fact that it's Texas Tech is not that much better. Look, they got to get their shit together in a week from Friday. Or they're going to just lose a lot of these games, in my opinion. But if they can find a go-to guy in a week and a half, then, yeah, I think you don't need to worry too much.
I'm actually with you. I was having questions about Kansas since the start of the year just because they lost Dotson and Azubuike, and those were the guys who ran the pick and rolls late. But the bigger issue is look, the teams they've beaten, right? They lost to Gonzaga. Yes, they hung tight for a while. Gonzaga was the better team and edged them out, and maybe Gonzaga didn't have the best defensive game. It was 102-90. They beat St. Joe's, but that St. Joe's game was closer than people think, and they didn't pull away until around the 7-6 minute mark in the second half.
Yeah, but the thing they pulled away. That's what's important.
Yeah, St. Joe's isn't good, though. Kentucky. This is the game where people will point to, and they'll look, hey, we beat Kentucky. Kentucky's a great team. Kentucky's extremely talented. They are not a great team yet. This is a classic John Calipari situation. Your players struggled to gel at the beginning of the season. They sometimes will drop, depending on the season, drop a big game or two against a blue blood like Kansas or Duke. But then by the end of the season, they round into form, figure out who the best rotations are, blah, blah, blah. Calipari hasn't figured that team out yet, especially due to the fact they didn't play exhibition games. And or scrimmages, really just only in practice to evaluate these guys. So they played a Kentucky team that is still struggling to find its identity and was also fresh off a loss. So, and they barely won. They won because of a late comeback. For me, I think this Kansas team, can be a bit of a mess sometimes. They have tons of talent, and when everything's clicking, and I mean, you look at the roster, it's a great defensive roster, despite how they played against Gonzaga. But for me, there's just a lot of questions about who is your alpha. Is it Ochai Agbaji? Potentially, I mean, he's athletic. Is it Marcus Garrett? Problem with Marcus Garrett is he's just developing as an offensive player. And yes, he took huge steps forward last year, but is he really the guy you want taking a step back three for the win? No. Is it Bryce Thompson, the freshman? Clearly has shown flashes, but he has not been good in recent games. Ty and Grant Foster took over late in this one. That was good, but you're playing North Dakota State and shouldn't have been in a position where that was even necessary. So, yeah, I think that in comparison to Wisconsin, who we said, yeah, it's a game against a decent Marquette team that has talent, and they just struggled late and they got beaten a freak tip. This is different. You almost lost to a team that hadn't won a basketball game in your home building, and a building that Kansas hardly loses in ever. I think that is a huge source of concern. And Joe, I'm fully with you. The lack of a go-to guy is going to throw them into trouble at Texas Tech. I think they actually dropped that game.
It's going to bite them in the ass.
100%. And I think they can develop one, but I still have questions over who that's going to be, because my best guess at the beginning of the season would have been actually Bryce Thompson. But yeah, Bryce Thompson just hasn't gotten the minutes or the production necessary for that yet.
I totally agree.